What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the STR Investing Podcast. I am your host, Mark Lumpkin, and this week I'm bringing you another Monday market data report backed by popular demand. We will keep these things coming. I have got a couple of notes from people that want to see occupancy and revenue per bedroom count, so we're going to try to mix that in the next couple episodes. But this week, we're going to focus on continuing talking about amenities and amenity density in the markets that we've been talking about. This week, I've got none other than Yosemite, California, guys. If you have never been to Yosemite, I'd put it on your list. Super cool place. When you come out of that tunnel for the first time and you see this beautiful cascading mountain with waterfalls coming off of it and this gorgeous valley, man, it's a very cool national park. That is why it is tracking to be the 5th most visited national park in the United States of America, with a little over 4 million visitors a year just to the park itself. And so there's a lot of travel that comes to this market. When we talk about where those travelers are coming from, it's about a 75-25 split between domestic and international travel, with 62% of domestic travelers coming from California. They're coming from the Bay Area, Los Angeles. It's relatively a reasonable drive or short flight for a lot of them. And so that is why you get a lot of Californians that travel to Yosemite. International, as far as where people are coming from, a lot of them are coming from Europe. The UK, Germany are really the top international feeders. So that's super interesting to think about when you're setting up a short-term rental. Where are people coming from? And a lot of them are coming from California, San Francisco Bay Area. So they're going to love their soy lattes and their electric cars and whatever else they like in California, high regulations and crazy taxes. So if you can add those amenities to your short-term rental, you guys probably do great. Let's talk about the inventory. The count, you've probably got between 800 and 1,000 active short-term rentals. AirDNA shows that there's about 500 specifically in the Yosemite National Park market area, while the county around it has quite a bit more. We've seen about a 40% supply surge over the last 2 years. And so there has been more properties set up. But what'll be really interesting when we get into the data, guys, is there's a very low amount of highly amenitized properties like we see in most markets. What are your peak seasons and why? So the summer crush, obviously June, July, and August are absolutely peak. You're going to get somewhere around 500 to 600,000 visitors a month in those 3 or 4 months. So a huge percentage of people come in the summer. May is like the waterfall peak. That's when all the snow is melting and you get a lot of people that come for that. And then October, you've got a lot of those great fall colors and people come out for that as well. And so those are really the peak seasons. Travel motivations. What brought people to here? Well, you've obviously got hiking and climbing. You've got the giant sequoias, which bring a lot of people in. And then there are quite a bit of water sports that happen. There's some pretty epic lakes and rivers out there. People come out to paddleboard, kayak, fish, do all kinds of things. So let's talk about regulations in Yosemite. If you're thinking of investing there, you got to know about the regulations. Inside the park, you have 0 traditional STRs. All those properties are either going to be hotels or they're going to be owned by the National Park Service, and they're going to be like cabins you can rent from them. Something to keep in mind, a lot of national parks and government agencies cannot list their properties on Airbnb and VRBO because they are not allowed to be charged fees. It's actually written into a lot of state constitutions that they cannot be on OTAs because OTAs charge a percentage of revenue as a fee, and they can't list those properties. So almost always when you look at a national park, there's a cabin for rent. You have to go directly to the government's website, whoever owns that particular cabin, and book there. You cannot book them through OTAs, which is very interesting. The Mariposa County has got a strict 3-bedroom cap, so they're considering adding a 5th bedroom is what I've heard most recently, taking you up to a 5th bedroom right now, but they've got a 3-bedroom cap. And so they limit total occupancy, which is going to be very interesting. Obviously, we know if you have a much bigger property, you're not going to be able to list it with that higher occupancy, but people will still book it knowing that it's got a bunch of bedrooms because they've got a big group. So there's some workarounds there. Overall, I think Yosemite is a solid place to visit, and I could imagine that if you found the right property and it made sense from a regulatory standpoint and from a revenue standpoint, it's a no-brainer. But let's talk about the amenities, because that's what I've got today on the list. We're going to talk specifically amenities, amenity stack, and how the competition stacks up. So we're going to find Yosemite to be a very amenity rich market and a very amenity poor market in terms of diversity. And you'll see what I mean in just a second. When we talk about the two top amenities in Yosemite, we've got fire pits and hot tubs. 64% of short-term rentals in that market out of the 1,000, so 640 of them have fire pits. 613 of them have hot tubs. 61.3% have hot tubs. Hopefully my math is correct there. Your main two amenities, your fire pit and your hot tub, are absolutely through the roof, and they're a no-brainer to have. All the competition has it. If you don't have it, you're going to struggle to compete. You've got to at least do that to be in the top. 65% of these properties have it, so you've got to do it. Then we take a steep dive. So when we start talking about super properties like what we set up, you're going to find yourself with a complete unicorn if you set up a super property out in Yosemite. 13.3% of short-term rentals have home gyms. 13% have pools. So home gyms and pools are the next two most amenitized things in properties, and they're a very small percentage of the overall properties in this market. So that can be a great way to stand out. We know pools are going to be expensive, but we know that this market is very dependent on summer months. Those 3 summer months get a bulk of the visitors. And if you have a pool, you're going to charge a massive premium, and you're probably going to be at 100% occupancy all summer. The next one is going to be a game room. Only 10% of properties have a game room. So having a game room, especially when you're targeting families and you have a bigger property, can be a no-brainer. People are going to go out like they do on vacation. They're going to spend the morning hiking, fishing, doing stuff. They're going to go grab lunch, and then they're going to come unwind at the property. Having a game room for kids to go play in is not just great for them, it's great for parents to get some quiet time. The next one is a sauna. Only 8% of properties in this market have a sauna. And what we found is that the sauna hot tub combination, the two of them together, absolutely crush. And you have a lot of people with a hot tub, so when they go to filter hot tubs, they're going to see a lot of options. But when they start scrolling through and seeing that yours has a hot tub and a sauna, when only 8% have saunas, it's pretty awesome. That's a pretty great way to differentiate yourself. And the maintenance on saunas is relatively straightforward, and they photograph really, really well. So having a sauna with your hot tub can be a great way to stand out. The next few are really, really small. So we've only got 6% of people have playgrounds, 4% of people are waterfront, and my favorite is 1% of people have pickleball courts. I think we found 12 pickleball courts out of the 1,000 that are out there. So it's a very, very small percentage have pickleball courts. Remember, this demographic of those Californians that like to come vacation in Yosemite for the weekend, and they like to do outdoorsy stuff, and they're driving their electric cars, well, I guarantee you they're pickleball players. Guarantee it. Put my money on it. So having a pickleball court filters out 99% of properties, and 2, can be just a kick-ass way to differentiate your property with basically no upkeep and no maintenance on a pickleball court. So that's the amenity stack, guys. There's one that's left out, which I'm going to try to follow up with you on, is electric car chargers. I think obviously that's going to be an amenity that's going to definitely stand out in this market that gets a lot of California drivers too. But when we talk about two things like mini golf or movie theaters, you have 0. You basically have no one that has that. And so if you take a super property like we do in Scottsdale that might have a couple hundred houses that they have to compete with, and you create one of those in Yosemite, you'd end up with 0 competition. If you just do a few other amenities other than a fire pit and a hot tub, then you'll definitely differentiate yourself, and you'll have a little bit of competition, but very little, depending on what you add to the property. So Yosemite's ripe for it, guys. Somebody's got to create a super property out there. Love to help you if you do. We've done some cool houses in California that have even showed up on television shows. I am going to work on bringing back occupancy and revenue to this Market Monday, but we're going to keep bringing these to you guys. And tune in, because we have a special guest this Friday that's absolutely bringing the heat and is one of my favorite guests we've had on the show. Thank you guys for joining the STR Investing Podcast. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch you on Friday.